Hello, everybody. Keri-Anne Livingstone here from Daring to Suck, showing up to you live to have a conversation about empathy. Last week, I went into my group. I have a group. I'm the host of a group called Empathetic Badasses, and I created that space because I was so tired of hearing my clients and people I talked to say that they felt alone in what they felt, that they felt isolated, and that they thought they were the only ones that felt the way they did, being deep feelers and wanting to put themselves out into the world, but feeling like the world was almost like too much, that they felt too deeply, and that they actually saw that as an affliction. And anyone that is following me knows that I'm all about deep feeling and emotions, and I celebrate them. Hello, whoever's here, say hello. So my name is Keri-Anne. What I do is I help people move through and navigate all the WTF moments of life, death, and all of it. And I try to help them do it with some grace, some ease, and some humor, because this life gig, we need the humor in this, because it's ridiculous, the things that we go through. And so anyway, last week I went live in my group, and I was talking about, what a crazy year this has been. 2016, a lot of us got our butts handed to us on a platter, and we're still kind of recovering from what's happened and trying to reconcile everything. And I was talking about your story and how sometimes there's this spiritual or mainstream self-development eye roll that comes with, oh, it's just a story. And if you want to listen to that, go into the group and join the group and have a listen. But it was all about validating the fact that your story has value and it deserves to be listened to. But more importantly, deserve to be listened to with empathy from yourself first and foremost. And if you're not with someone, if you're not being supported by a coach or a therapist or friends even that are allowing you to have your story, then I suggest you find someone who does, because there's gold in those stories. So if you want the details, you can hop over to the group. But I promised to show up here and talk about empathy, what I call radical empathy. Because Brene Brown shared in this great little video, or someone created a video around a Brene Brown talk about empathy, and she did a beautiful job of breaking down what empathy is. And bottom lining it, she was just saying it's about feeling with people, without judgment, without imposing your will, without putting your hand on their process. To be empathetic is to listen and be with, to sit shoulder to shoulder with somebody and not try to convince them out of their feelings. And I say, yes, that's exactly what empathy is. But the element of radical empathy that I'm exploring, and I don't know if that's a thing, I should search it. But to me, radical empathy is where it's so much more than that. Or actually so much less than that, meaning it's not just about sitting shoulder to shoulder. It's really about being aware of surrendering yourself to the moment, like being so ultimately present with somebody that you're willing to give up your agenda, that you're willing to witness without imposing anything on them, with zero agenda. And that is so incredibly challenging for us as human beings. I had a dream a couple weeks ago that I vented about or expressed in the Empathetic Badass group about being with my husband, and in this dream, and before you think it's going to get weird, it wasn't like a wah dream. It was more like he was just really into me, and I couldn't almost handle it. I couldn't handle how unconditional he was with his love and his acceptance, and it was radical. And there was this element of him being with me no matter what, like however I showed up, whatever I presented to him, he just loved me even more. He just allowed it even more. And by being exposed to that, it started to dissolve all the layers that I was aware that we're walking around with. Human beings, this skin bag, this container that we are in, has so many bells and whistles that drive us crazy. We don't even know that it limits us. And, things like our ego, resistance, fear, emotions, and all those layers can prevent us from, it's more about the denial of the emotions and the not being withness that prevents us from really connecting with each other. So I guess what I want to offer you in this phone call, because it's such a big topic for me, I could probably write a whole book on it. The first thing I want to address is, I think someone's here. One of my kids might come running in. This should be interesting. Is that the first thing that I want to acknowledge is is the sincere desire for us to help each other. I think when we're sitting with somebody that's having a difficult time, I have deep compassion for people that are being asked to help people in this moment, because it takes a lot out of us to surrender everything that we've got to bring to the table. Because I think at the bottom of it all, we actually really want to help and serve. And sometimes we end up stepping into a place of doing or needing to take action. And it comes from a really genuine, sincere place. So I don't know if you've ever been with somebody and you feel like you just want to share what you want to share, but they can't help but either, go running to their metaphorical closet to find a similar outfit, to come running back and then show you how they have something similar and that they can relate. And it almost detracts you or distracts you from you actually processing your feelings, because they almost just want to validate the value that they bring to the table, that maybe the permission slip that validates that they can actually be there to support you. Does that make sense? So, and I think we don't realize how, we think, well, that's nice and everything, but it actually ends up kind of distracting us from what we just want to express. I think we all just want to be expressed and supported and accepted, but these people that are with us, they mean well. But it's really difficult because they just desperately want to help serve. They don't want you to be where you are. And it's a struggle. And I know this from my own perspective as a human being, and then learning about the art of coaching and the science of coaching. And I say the science because it's almost like emotional math. I was in training one weekend and I called myself out. I said, there's a part of me that keeps showing up. And I called her the game show host, the game show contestant. And she always seemed to have, I'm just going to shut my door in case my kids come in. I don't really want them to yell and scream at us. I called her my game show contestant because she was super eager. It was like the $25,000 pyramid, and I was always acknowledged by my clients for being really intuitive and articulate. So I kind of prided myself on being able to name things. And it got a little out of hand. Like it started almost feeling like a competition, like her hand was on the buzzer. So when I was listening with somebody, I was not only listening to them, but I was listening to what I was picking up, or the visuals I was getting, or the experiences I was picking up on, and I couldn't wait to name it. And I was like, I'm noticing something about it. It doesn't seem to be working. So I was dared to go into a coaching session with somebody and know nothing. Like to actually take on a persona of a character that I could relate to that had a total empty brain. And so, no offense to Suzanne Summers, but I chose Crissy Snow from Three's Company. And so I went into this as a character, and this is the client of mine knew that I was doing this, so it wasn't like I was being weird, but I needed to coach her from a place of like having a totally empty head. And I was like, well, that seems like the total opposite of what I was used to. And I went into there and I was just, I had to sort of, flick the hair, and I was just like wide-eyed. And I mean, Crissy Snow from Three's Company, if I'm totally dating myself, was like super curious. And she was like, like she had this wonder about her. She just loved being here and like loved learning things and was super interested and so friendly and all this. So I was kind of leaning into this session like that. And it ended up being one of the most powerful coaching sessions I had had in a while. And I realized it was because I had handed all of the empowerment over to my client. When my client felt that she was being followed and cared for from a place of total curiosity and even empathy, because she was telling stories, and I was like, and it sounds like a fake, but I really needed to keep my head empty and like, what is that? Like, what is sad for you? Like, I couldn't know anything. She would say sad or frustrated, and I would act like it was the first time I ever heard it. And I think a lot of us walk around with what we think are comparison things. Like, I know what sad is. I know what frustrated is. And one tip that I would love to throw out there, not just for coaches or healers or people that support people, but as a human being, see what happens when you get that curious and you get more open to not knowing. Because it's like the last place we want to be. We always pride ourselves on knowing. So I had to school my inner articulator, like the one that wanted to name everything and like get it right and blow my clients away with my intuitive abilities of like totally nailing how they were feeling. I had to put her in the background and trust that not knowing was actually something that my client needed from me. And it ended up being the best learning I ever got. So now when I step in, I try and do my best to clear my mind and just follow And what happens is people almost don't trust it. Like they're waiting for you to like give the feedback, or they're waiting for you to like put your hand on it or enforce kind of your will or your speak on it. And when you actually let them know that they're so important, that you care that much about them, that you're sort of offering this unconditional space for them to just feel supported and heard, no matter what comes out of their face. That is that's badass. Like that is the most badass thing I felt like I had ever done, because I completely had to put all my stuff in check and I had to put it in the background. And that was a big challenge for me, but it was liberating at the same time, because it let go of my need to feel responsible, to think that it's almost like innocent arrogance, that I was the one that was supposed to help them. I didn't realize that just providing that open space of exploration could empower my client or empower people around me to feel even more safe to express themselves, and even more like that they have their hands on the wheel, and it's their kind of responsibility to take what they're noticing and own it. Does that make sense? If anyone's on here? And just imagine what that could do with the relationships in your life, not just outside of you, but with yourself. Like I got schooled big time about what I was noticing, and I realized that was the final piece of the puzzle, that I realized, oh my gosh, a part of me innocently is like innocently arrogant and thinks that she needs to know everything or be one step ahead of my client. And I actually needed to be one step behind my client and follow them. And then when it felt like they were ready to receive something, there was almost like, if you're ready, I have some thoughts, do I have permission to share them? And then they're always like, yeah, I think I'm ready. Or no, I think there's more. And that, whether it's a coaching client relationship or like a friend, just watch what happens in you and in that relationship. I mean, the safety that you create, the trust that you create, it's radical. And it's all of a sudden people start to experience themselves much deeper, much differently. And so do you, because you're you're actually really surrendering so many layers that we walk around with, needing to know, wanting to compare so we can like be with and support it in that way, when we really actually don't need to have a comparative story. We don't. People don't need that from us. They don't need us to actually understand in the way that we think we do. We just want space to talk and express ourselves. So I hope that's useful in some way, especially closing this year out with a lot of us having a lot of difficult stories and wanting to express them without people trying to convince us or make it positive. So I have a feeling I have more to say on this, but I wanted to get this out of me first. And if you're curious, join the Empathetic Badass group on Facebook. There's a lot of amazing women and men now in there that are ready to live sort of from the neck down, open-hearted, and express that life from the deep feeling place. So that's that, and I will sign off. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Much love.